Hello, 60ME viewers and readers. Anthony Cirillo back here again. My hair is getting shaggy during Corona. Help. All right. Well, this month, again, we're going to keep up with the theme of caregivers and how we can help them. We know that caregiving is becoming more and more of an important issue. And so this month we're talking about the self-defense of caregivers. That's an interesting and provocative topic. Actually, it was inspired by Peter Rosenberger. You might know Peter by his show on Sirius XM, The Hope for the Caregiver. And he has a wonderful show. He's had a radio show for years, but now he's got a much wider distribution. And when he was on my Caregiver Summit a couple of years ago, we talked about actually how you can use martial arts principles to retain your footing as a caregiver. And he says that caregiving can be a full contact sport, right? It's like wrestling in some ways. You know, sometimes you feel under siege by family members and even by the ones who you provide care to. It can help caregivers, lead caregivers into despair and eventually erupts into rage. And that obviously compounds the heartache of caregivers and piles on guilt, depression, and that's when you become overwhelmed and outmatched. And so Peter says if we can incorporate a few principles through martial arts, we might be able to regain our footing. He was speaking to a group of nurses in Alaska and asked how many had ever, and literally ever, been choked or grabbed by a patient or a loved one. All of them raised their hand. It made him think about how caregivers feel like the life is being choked out of them by their loved ones and their circumstances. So the first thing he suggests is it starts with self-esteem. And he doesn't mean ego. It's about caregivers, you recognizing the value that you have as an individual and as a caregiver. It's really a window into what your heart looks like and how to have somebody who is willingly and knowingly put themselves in a vulnerable situation and sometimes even disaster. We talked about this before. It's okay to say no. As Peter points out, no is a complete sentence. As a no, you have permission to say no and not capitulate to every demand that people put on you by family and friends, medical staff, and more. So balance is the key in self-defense, Peter says. What does it look like for caregivers to keep their balance while those around them are attacking? One of the first things he studies is hapkido. In keeping your balance, he says, don't let your shoulders go over your hips. That's what it looks like physically. And you can understand that, right? Because if you do that, you're going to come out of balance and you're going to tiptoe over, right? Emotionally, what that looks like is learning to recognize that it's okay to say no. It's okay for you to not go to every fight that you get a ticket to. If you're defensive, you're reacting. But if you're defending, you can move away and keep control. On a broader level, it's about trying to stay secure and in control of your own thoughts, words, and deeds, and not have someone else take them from you. So really, it's about being in control. And being in control is being in balance, right? And then Peter says, fight the good fight of what's important. What's first? So we need to focus on the immediate tasks at hand because a lot of times our thoughts are racing, right? I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this. Well, you know, his wife was in a horrific car accident when she was 17. And that's how long he's been caregiver many, many years to this lovely woman. What a wonderful relationship they had. But you know, when the paramedics arrived, there is an order and a priority. You know, first they have to put out the fire, right? Then they have to stop the bleeding to get her safety. So the same with us. What's the fire? Put that out. Stop the bleeding and get to safety, right? You can't do complicated surgery in the midst of a burning car. You know, things are coming at you 100 miles an hour, and there's so many of them, sometimes you just break down and don't do anything. So that's why it's important to recognize what battles to fight and the priority in which to fight them. The other thing, we can't make our minds go crazy. Anticipation makes things worse. So just like worrying about things you have no control over, you can create all these what-if scenarios and have them floating around your head. Tomorrow's not here. Anticipation doesn't work. See the big picture, slow down, and take a breath. Peter says, by looking at the big picture, caregivers can push back against this rush to fix things. Sometimes it's as simple as taking a breath, right? You know, have you ever received an email that really ticked you off? I did once. And what did I do? I immediately responded to it. Well, it actually had career ramifications for me. So then I learned, well, wait a minute. I have to take a deep breath before I respond to that. And then I would respond thoughtfully and logically. And now when something like that comes in, a lot of times it's a battle not worth fighting, and I don't respond at all. So simply, that's kind of how you have to look at your caregiving and the tasks ahead of you. So take a breath, practice deep breathing. You can learn about that through a zillion videos, right? On YouTube. Slow your heart rate, slow your mind. The last person to freak out in a room in a panic is usually the leader. And remember, you can't get it right all the time. A 300 hitter in baseball is great, right? 3 out of 10, you're hitting the ball, yet you can go in the Hall of Fame. So you can't get it right all the time, but know that you're already in the Caregiver Hall of Fame. Thanks.